This week's best MMA bets, we're talking UFC Vegas 69. I'm going to give you guys my most confident picks, my favorite underdogs, the lock of the week, which is an underdog, and then we'll talk value bets slash props, and we'll finish it out with the parlays. Make sure you guys smash that like button if you're new to the channel, subscribe, turn those post notifications on, and make sure to share the video as well. And let's start it off with this most confident picks section. Let's bring them up on the screen here. So the first one we're going to talk about will be Zach Pauga, who's fighting Jordan Wright, and I'm expecting an annihilation. His advantage in the power, the boxing, and even the durability is vast. Jordan Wright is a person who fights very explosively and well for the first round, doesn't necessarily have the gas tank to go longer. Durability is strongly in question. You see him getting finished in all of his losses, and he doesn't seem to respond very well to taking big shots. Zach Pauga is a guy that definitely can close that gap and put hands on his opponent. I'm expecting big punches in close. I think Pauga is going to knock him out. He's minus 270 as the favorite, and honestly, I don't think that's a bad tag for this matchup. Wright's durability, then on the opposite side, Pauga's power. Also note, Pauga was fighting on The Ultimate Fighter as a heavyweight, made it to the finals, knocked out a heavyweight on the show. Now he's fighting at light heavyweight, his true natural weight class. I think he's going to look nasty out there. KO win for Pauga. The line is not great, but you see it sitting at around minus 150. I do expect him to get the knockout. Not the most valuable prop of all time. I'll also mention first round KO, which I think is fairly likely. That's at plus 180. Pauga, though, my pick to win the fight, extremely confident pick here, and I am thinking finish is a near sure thing in this matchup here. Pauga getting it done to start off the most confident pick section. The next one, it's going to be AJ Fletcher. He's fighting Themba Gorimbo, and I just don't feel like Themba Gorimbo is going to be ready for what's coming. He looks like a guy who has decent athleticism, okay wrestling, solid enough stand-up, but athletic base, not necessarily super technical. Fletcher, I think, is the more powerful puncher. I think he's the physically stronger guy. I'd say he's the better wrestler of the two, and he's got that UFC competition experience. Looking at this matchup here, I think Fletcher's getting his win inside of the UFC. It'll be the first one for him. It's minus 250 for Fletcher as the favorite. Themba sitting at around plus 225 as an underdog. Method of victory that I'm picking is knockout, but I've mentioned this on other shows this week that I feel like it could be a fight that goes longer. I'm going to talk the knockout prop right now for Fletcher plus 250. I think he has the power to put hands on Gorimbo, and then the decision side is also at plus 250. I'm going to still ride with the KO. I think Themba Gorimbo, there's a chance that he's going to put himself out of position at times looking for big shots, and Fletcher can find counters. Now, note something about AJ Fletcher, which I would say is a deficiency for this weight class at 170 pounds. 67-inch reach, his opponent a 76.5-inch reach. Big disadvantage in the reach, but his advantage in the close range, I think, is good enough that he'll be able to close that gap, the explosiveness edge, and Themba Gorimbo not being super technical, little bit more on the raw slash wild side. That's why I think AJ Fletcher can get hands on him and KO him. So we're going Fletcher to get the win, and I think he gets the first UFC victory for himself. Minus 250, a little bit wide for a guy that's never won a fight in the UFC, but he really should win this one. Next matchup, William the Nightmare Knight. Listen, he's fighting Marcin Prachnio. I think Knight has the power advantage. I think he's the better puncher, better boxing skill set between the two, physically stronger guy. I'd say he's the better wrestler, and he's also the fighter that I believe will dig deeper when shit gets tough. Even if we're going longer here, I'd expect a finish later in the fight for Knight, more likely than Prachnio. Not a lot of power on the Prachnio side. Decent enough Muay Thai. Not something that jumps out with super impressiveness to me. I think this is William Knight showcase fight, really. I think KO is likely. It's near pick'ems, minus 110 for William Knight. I think he's got a really good shot to win this one by knockout. The KO prop sitting at plus 220. But just money lining it, that's fantastic value for William here. I see him getting it done. I'm feeling very good about it. I like William Knight's chances, and I really think the most confident pick here with great value. He's a solid ass play. William Knight to get the win. And that's a good money line attack as close as it is. You don't necessarily even need need to risk it with the props. You throw down William Knight, money line, and let's cash this shit. Now, the next fight, and I'll say this is the final of the most confident picks section, is going to be Mayra Bueno Silva. Yes, big favorite, minus 415 for her in this fight here against Lena Landsberg. But their career trajectories are completely opposite. They could not be in different spots of their fighting career. It seems like Silva's consistently getting better and is on a 2-fight winning streak, whereas Lena Landsberg is maintaining at best, maybe even losing a bit of skill and, efficiency inside of the cage as time goes on. She's over 40 and she's on a 3-fight losing streak. Her best way to win here against Silva would be holding her on the ground. Mayra Bueno Silva is fantastic with arm bars. Definitely live to catch one here. Yes, the money line is disgustingly wide, but the submission prop is what I'm going to push towards as a possibility at plus 200. Now, it's not one of those crazy Hail Mary lines, but let's be real. Could she not armbar Lena Landsberg? She did it to Stephanie Egger, who I say is a pretty good grappler in her last fight out. And I think Mayra Bueno Silva has strong momentum in her favor, is going to be going out there to get this win with everything she has. Whereas Landsberg, past the 40-year-old mark, doesn't seem like she's a viable contender at this point. Definitely not, I'd say. Whereas Silva could still be someone in the future who's challenging for a belt. So Mayra Bueno Silva, definitely very confident pick for me. Obviously, the line a little bit on the wider side. Now, I want to jump to the next section, which is going to be straight underdogs, which will lead us into the lock of the week. Who's an underdog? I'll tell you this about these dogs. There's going to be, an asterisk around both that I'm going to mention as a concern. It's going to be Ovin St. Preux and Jim Miller. Both of them are not in their relative youth at this point, but Jim Miller's looking really good, and he's also fighting an Alexander Hernandez, who's taking this fight coming in on short notice, and he took a bad loss in the last one to Billy Quarantillo just 8 weeks ago, maybe 9 weeks by the time the fight happened. So like a little bit over 2 months, he got TKO'd and his eyes were swelled up bad and he was bleeding. Took a lot of damage. Jim Miller is on a 3-fight win streak and also seems to be on a roll. Note this also, Hernandez shredded down to 145. There was definitely some muscle loss with that extremely calorie restrictive diet. He claims so much so to say that his dick did not work while training for that fight, which is absolutely insane. Definitely good move to go back up for Hernandez at 55. Mistake to jump in against Jim Miller on short notice. Miller is the dog at around plus 195. I think he can do it here. Money line would be your best attack for this underdog, but I'll also mention Jim Miller to win this thing via submission because I think that is possible. That's plus 500 for Jim Miller to win by sub. Now let's talk about Ovin St. Preux. He's fighting Felipe Lins, who in my opinion has not really looked good inside of the UFC. Close but clear win over Marcin Prachnio, where he looked flat at the very end. Lost to Tanner Bozier. I know the Arlovsky fight, I guess, doesn't look that bad. He got cleanly beaten with the boxing skills by Arlovsky over the 3 rounds, but a clean loss nonetheless. And he came into the UFC as a guy that looked like a threat. He was a champion outside of the octagon, a quality heavyweight, I would say, outside over in PFL. He then gets to the UFC, and the level doesn't look the same. The fitness doesn't look the same. He doesn't look like the same fighter. I think that Ovin St. Preux, yes, this is ancient Ovin St. Preux at this point, AOSP. He's still got a little something left. I know he looks slow kind of against Shogun in the last one out, but he could still definitely find shots against Felipe Lins. I'm not questioning Ovin St. Preux's chin at this point. He still has KO power and looping punches that could find home with the way Felipe Lins closes the gap and stands. And I have a hard time seeing Lins just out-wrestling him and out-striking him for all 3 rounds. I think Ovin St. Preux is 100% in this fight, and I think he's winning this thing. And I really feel like there's a strong chance he gets a KO. Looking at Ovin St. Preux plus 185 underdog. He's being slept on. Now, as far as Ovin St. Preux knockout, plus 600 if you're looking for that Hail Mary sniper. Not a terrible idea. Ovin St. Preux, my pick to win this fight. I think he beats Felipe Lins, and he stays floating towards the very back end of light heavyweight, but will hold on to his UFC career for a little bit longer. Now, I want to jump to the lock of the week. Erin Blanchfield over Jessica Andrade. Yes, I'm doing it. I'm picking the youth. I'm picking the prospect. I'm picking the girl who was preparing for a 5-round fight, whereas Jessica Andrade on 1 week's notice jumps in against Erin Blanchfield, who's a monster wrestler and a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I feel like next up. I call her Erin Blanchfield off because she has that Dagestan-style top pressure. Jessica Andrade was dominated on the ground by Valentina Shevchenko. Erin Blanchfield is also a big girl, size edge over Andrade, preparing for 5 rounds. I really feel like Andrade, maybe a misstep here. You're jumping in after, yes, a great performance against Lauren Murphy, but Lauren Murphy is a striking threat only, but really not to Jessica Andrade, whereas Blanchfield is the contrary. She's going to be looking to grapple throughout this entire fight with a heavy pressure grappling game. Can she strike? A little bit. I wouldn't say that's her forte, but you'll only need a minimal amount of striking to look to set up takedowns. I think when she gets a hold of Andrade, there'll be a clear strength difference, and I think Blanchfield is going to wear on her and eventually finish her off. I like Blanchfield as the dog. I'm around plus 125 for Erin Blanchfield. As far as propping it up, I like the moneyline attack as the lock of the week. I feel good that she's the next prospect up. I think there's a bright future for Erin Blanchfield. Okay, so we're looking at Blanchfield to win ground and pound KO TKO plus 750. Blanchfield to win by submission, it's around plus 350. I'll personally lean the side of money line, but it's not a terrible idea to throw on potentially a ground and pound type KO TKO. I know it's not going to say ground and pound, but that's just what I'm seeing. It's very wide. Submission, I also could see her pulling one out, just peppering on Jessica Andrade, wearing on her, then eventually submitting her. I like Erin Blanchfield to win, but the money line is where I'll lean you towards. I think she's next up as a prospect, and to me, a fantastic lock of the week. Now, let's jump to the next section. It's going to be props / value bets. The first one I will bring up will be the prop this week. Clayton Carpenter to win via submission on Juan Camilo Ronderos. It's plus 280. I think that's a sniper line. David Dvorak was able to sub him. I'm not putting Clayton Carpenter in the most confident picks this week, essentially really because it's the UFC debut for him. Juan Camilo Ronderos should be a guy that's beaten by Clayton Carpenter. I like the sub prop more than a minus 300 money line. So submission win for Clayton Carpenter is going to be my pick for you guys to go out there and prop up. Win by sub plus 280. Now, value bet side of things, which I'll also bring a prop with this one. It's going to be Kusan Ashkabov fighting Jamal Emmers. Kusan's 23-0. That's a very impressive accolade. He's minus 130 as the favorite. I think he has a real chance to go out there and beat Jamal Emmers. And I also think there's a pretty fair chance that he locks up a sub on the floor, plus 400. But I am going to push you guys more so towards, if you're going Ashkabov, the money line better. I like the Clayton Carpenter win by sub, maybe more, because the money line is unplayable. Whereas here you have a very playable money line. You have a very capable fighter in Kusan Ashkabov, also a capable opponent though in Jamal Emmers. And this is why Ashkabov is not in my most confident pick section. I feel good about him winning, but I couldn't include him in that section simply because I know Jamal Emmers is a difficult fight. I mean, he gave Giga Chikadze hell, lost a split decision, was beating Pat Sabatini until he was submitted, and his knee was absolutely destroyed in that fight. I think Ashkabov beats him here, but it's a game test for him. That is the props / value bet section. I want to jump to the final section. I think the fame section, the fan favorite, the parlays. Let's talk some parlays to play for UFC Vegas 69. All right, what can we come up with here? I think I'm going to go safety territory first and foremost. So we'll go AJ Fletcher, Mayra Bueno Silva, and Zach Pauga at nearing plus 125. It says plus 127. Your variation of that will be a little bit different depending where you're playing at. So let's say plus 125 here for this 3-fighter play. Not bad value at all, and I do see all 3 of these fighters winning, but I want to add more juice to your sales. I'm not going to put the lock in just yet. William Knight. So that brings you now to plus 325 for William Knight, AJ Fletcher, Zach Pauga, Mayra Bueno Silva. Let me remove Mayra Bueno Silva. Let me remove AJ Fletcher. And let's also take Zach Pauga out. And you go dog lock of the week. Erin Blanchfield with William Knight, 2-fighter play. It's minus 115 and it's plus 115. Obviously varies where you're at, but it's plus 300 for this one. I feel really good about this two-fighter play. I feel like it's one you can capitalize well on. If you also then say, okay, can I bring in a value bet, Ashkabov? If you want to risk it, go out there and do it, plus 610. A little bit less confidence on this one, but it could definitely still come through. I'll remove Ashkabov, and let's create the Mystic Mac, strong favorite, type value, type risk, parlay, whatever we want to call it here. Plus 814, Fletcher, Pauga, Blanchfield, William Knight, and Bueno Silva. There's a high likelihood that I think that this happens here. And if you added in the side of Clayton Carpenter, I know a lot of people are, plus 1114, still debuting guy, risk fight. This is going to be more in your stretch parlay. I wouldn't say include that in your lock of the week type parlay. If you want to add dog money in it too, we can clear the slate actually. I want to clean this thing up and make it, a little bit less chaos on this thing before I add the dogs in. If I'm going to pick between OSP and Jim Miller, it's a coin flip. Flip a coin on who you're picking. But let's first do one with Ovin St. Preux, and let's do one with William Knight. Plus 414. Let's take out Ovin St. Preux, and let's replace him with Jim Miller, who's going to be sitting at, where's my boy Jim Miller at? There he is, plus 190. And we got to take William Knight out. Plus 698. If you went Ovin St. Preux and Jim Miller, dog v. dog type parlay, good plus money, but ultimately high ask risk. I'm just going to make a crazy one, to finish things out with some chaos. To, show you guys, realistically, this five-fighter play, OSP, Jim Miller, William Knight, AJ Fletcher, Aaron Blanchfield. It's not impossible at all, and it's plus 4,315. This is maybe one of the most valuable parlays I've ever made with dog to favorite ratio and only having a five-fighter play as opposed to like having like a 10 or 8-fighter play. This one right here could be something if you're looking to just shoot straight value and not have a crazy amount of fighters. If you do want to add the crazy amount of fighters, we'll just add everything in here just for shits and giggles, essentially, at this point. Zach Pauga, obviously, plus 7,188 now. This shit is just, it's getting out of hand here, man. We're getting psychotic. Plus 9,578. Maybe it could happen. Be cautious with your parlays, guys. I laid out the most confident picks and the lock of the week. My favorite dogs. Having variation in your parlays, key to success. 2 to 3 fighters, really maximum for highest likelihood. Everything else, I'll say it every fucking week, it's a damn lottery ticket play. So if you want to play some lottery tickets, I wouldn't hate on you. It's fun. Just be intelligent with how much you're throwing down on these lottery tickets. I hope you guys enjoyed another episode of this week's best MMA bets. Make sure you guys smash the likes. If you're new, subscribe. Full UFC Vegas 69 fight companion coming Saturday. But also note, Knucklemania 3 goes down on Friday. I'm doing a fight companion for that one as well. You don't want to miss the content. Bring in the heat all week long, as always. So make sure you're subscribed if you haven't yet. Definitely let me know you guys' lock of the week in the comments. Drop a W in the chat also to support your boy. Last week's lock of the week, Jack Della Maddalena. Yes, he was an ugly wide favorite, but he did come through with that plus, with a little something. The knockout was expected too, but hey, it's a big plus. We hit on the lock. We're moving into this week with good momentum, and I'm feeling real good about Aaron Blanchfield as an underdog lock. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace, everybody.